welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Jeanine B. and Bridget D. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And we got our conversation off to an interesting start today because the topic we came up with for today is consistency, and it came right out of the gate because we were talking about daylight savings time and how it's not terribly consistent here in the U.S. Jeanine, but there is no change to daylight savings time. The rest of the U.S. does have a change. That threw her off. Bridget was just thrown off, period, just because she was thrown off. And I suspect losing the internet probably helped, because she was without internet for a bit. But hey, it's all good. But it's amazing how when our routines get broken, it throws us off, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah, it does. And just like we were talking, started kind of talking a little bit about appreciation. And I find that like when we're consistent with our appreciation, it's easier to stay, in a better mood, stay happier, easier to talk to. And when we just start kind of getting wrapped up in ourselves and what's going on and be it like pain, like pain in our body can take us down, from that appreciation. But for me, the easiest hands down way for me getting back up my emotional spiral, my emotional vibration is visiting senior citizen home.
And love that stuff. I just love it.
I could see that, really.
Old people, man. I just love it. I love the elderly. I love making connections where people don't make connections. So you can see my appreciation is just like, if I'm having a toothache, if I'm just not feeling, I just go and visit somebody. I just go walk around the hallway.
Yeah. I love their stories. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, I had a lot of stories.
Yeah. But you get so many stories from them. I'm sure it's just like, so, I don't know, enlightening sometimes talking to the elderly. I love it.
It's not so much stories from them, but it's the stories I witness with them when I'm with them.
Okay.
Because by the time I'm meeting them, they're done. Like they're like sitting on their suitcases waiting for the proverbial train. Really, seriously, it's kind of like that. But it's the mix of where they're at with their disease or their aging process, where they're at and their perception of it, and my perception of it with them. So It's like a whole story that we're kind of developing together. So my recommendation for everyone is find something that brings you so much joy and happiness that's always your go-to.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to jump in, but
no, please.
I was like, Jim Carrey has like this motivational. He has like a few of them, but there's a motivational thing I was listening to on YouTube, and like it's so simple, but like I feel like we get down so like often, So he said, grief and sadness are the ticket home to nothing, and like we know that and like all that, but like we get down so easily from like just life, and it's like, when you do hear that and like other things, you're just like, it just puts it all back into perspective, and you're just like, Yeah,
but I would add something to that and say that being down is actually really valuable.
Well, yeah, definitely that too. Yeah.
And right, and sure, it doesn't necessarily get us anywhere if we're sad or if we're down or if we're seeing things that make us kind of sad. But at the same time, we're not going to be sad all the time. I mean, even critically depressed people have good days or good moments or good 5 minutes. I mean, and it's like catching those, and that's like with the elderly too. That's what I do is I try to catch those minutes, those seconds that where they're lucid or where they want to talk or in just being a little bit higher up my vibrational scale or being a little more aware lets me get into those little cracks when I see them. And I started my day off actually sitting a vigil with a woman that I was kind of close to at the facility, and she's actively dying. And then from there, I moved along and reaching out to people. I'm kind of like the Johnny Appleseed of the elder, for the elderly people. But so, I mean, I think Jim Carrey, right? Jim Carrey's got it. There's a little bit there's nothing really, there is something for us down there, right? Being a little bit depressed or sad, there is some gift there.
There's quite a bit of a gift there, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of
Yeah.
the things that David Strickle teaches, right?
Right.
That
But I mean, we don't want to be down there, but
No, you don't want to live
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah, right. I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he was talking
Right.
about being depressed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Being
yeah,
like that
yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time. You know, so like
Absolutely.
I don't know. It just really struck me. I was like,
It's
No,
the
that's
difference
cool. Thanks for sharing.
It's the difference between
I like
visiting the Arctic Circle and living in the Arctic Circle.
Oh, so good.
A quick visit.
Yeah,
10 minutes,
no.
sure, it's okay, but I don't have to stay there.
right.
Right, exactly.
Definitely.
That's really good. So consistency in our practices, consistency.
No, there's a
Like
big
you
deal
said,
right
like
there.
appreciation.
Yeah.
If we don't, like, it's so easy to get down and sad, you know. But appreciating things definitely gets me back up too. It's 100%.
But like you said, the consistency of the practice is huge.
Yeah, you have to
And-
keep.
And when you're trying to develop a new practice and develop a new habit, I should say,
Right.
regarding that practice, that's when it's the most challenging, because there's still the old vibration of the old habit hanging around. It's
Mhm.
not like it disappears entirely.
Right.
And we know how neuroplasticity works within the nervous system. It's not an instant erase and replace. You have to kind of shift it over time, but it will shift. And that's the good news, which
Yeah.
gives us the control that we're really looking for. But you have to do it. You have to stick to it. And I was really, I can't say I was mindful. That's the wrong word. I was aware of that today. If I was mindful, I wouldn't have been slipping like I had been, because I hadn't been doing all my practices every day. But I was aware of the fact that I hadn't been. And I'm currently near the end of the boot camp. Jeanine, of course, has finished the boot camp. Bridget's closing in on it too. The module that I am just now finishing up is one where you kind of revisit stuff that what they often call the minor transgressors, not the major three, but other stuff that can come up in your life. And I was revisited by one that haunted me for years. And the good news was that this time around, how do I say it? It just didn't win. I noticed it. I paid attention to it. I recognized the pattern.
Yeah.
And then made some changes as a result of it. And one of the big changes I made was, okay, I need to get out of here. I need to go take my walks. I hadn't taken my daily walk yet. And fortunately, today was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Okay, what's
Always
the temperature? When you say gorgeous, I'm just curious. What's the temperature?
Oh, like upper 60s, no wind, blue skies. Okay. Oh, God. I mean, just absolutely picture perfect. Really, really, really beautiful out. So.
Oh, yeah, that sounds really nice. Even here for Phoenix, that sounds like a balmy winter day.
In Phoenix, that's exactly what that would be. Yeah.
That's a little colder than that, but yeah.
In Connecticut, that's more like September or April. But yeah, I understand what you mean.
Got it.
But it is a truth that when you have that, it helps you to climb back up, and that's exactly what happened with me today. I found myself saying, okay, I know what works for me when I do these walks. I wasn't feeling depressed, but I was in the lower end of the scale. I knew I needed to climb up. And so I just started focusing on that sky as I'm walking along, and it was pretty hard to miss. It was just sheer blue, not a cloud anywhere. Just gorgeous. So I was just appreciating and loving it. And I could feel my vibe just rising.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the cork on the water thing. You could just feel it. Just the whole level was just going right up. I thought, this is really, really something. But that's also when I noticed that, I'd been kind of slipping in terms of doing my daily practice. And I'm wondering if I would not have fallen down maybe even less down that spiral if I'd been keeping the practice up. So I actually came back and made a note in my journal, which in and of itself is a big deal, because I used to not journal at all. I didn't like journaling. Ty has helped me to actually become something of a journaler. But I wrote down, okay, here are the 5 things. I actually have 5 things that I've done in the past, but I've never done all 5 of them at once. I got to start doing all 5 of them. Now that I'm in the off season, I can. Couldn't do it during the season, but during the off season, I don't have any excuses left. So
what are those? You want to talk about those 5 things, or?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, actually, I need to.
Is that okay?
Notes. Sure, yeah. I have no problem with it at all. I mean, the first thing I can tell you is mirror work. Mirror exercises, one of the most powerful things, and I've talked about that, before on the show. But an incredibly powerful thing for, first of all, for building your sense of self-image, self-worth, self-love. and self-confidence. I think the self-confidence piece kind of sneaks up on you because, I mean, like I said previously, many years ago, the reason I started it in the first place was to shut up the voice in the back of my head, and it worked. It worked great, but it had all these other benefits that came out of it, and that was one of the biggest ones. Building self-confidence was huge, so I like that. I'm not really big on affirmations, but I do have some that I like to do, and that would be number 2 on my list of things to do in order that I like to do them. And I don't really do the same affirmations every day, although I do have a thought that I really want to try to do what Cindy Chavez did. Maybe not the exact one that she did, but do you guys know that story?
I don't know.
This is about, I'm going to say 2.5 years ago, something like that. She decided she was going to do the affirmation, I feel rich, 1,000 times a day.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember that one?
Make a note. Make a note.
I actually tried doing that.
Did you really?
The I feel instead of the I am. Yeah.
Did you do it? How often did you do it? How
I only did it for a week because it actually, for me, it was more effective for me to do the I am. But I did try.
Okay. All right.
I did try.
Okay.
Cool.
So you do the I am regularly? Is that the idea?
Yeah, except for, like we said, when I don't do it, consistently, because I also found myself doing that last week, not being consistent, and I did feel a drop, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second!" Quickly realized why. So yeah, I think we're all on the same boat there.
Yeah. And I'm, like I said, I've never done. Actually, I see my list now. I've never done all 6 of them. I actually have 6 items on the list because they're time consuming. I mean, they do take time. But I've got the time, so I'm going to try doing it for a while. So starting tomorrow morning, that's my first day of doing all 6. So first one's the mirror work, second one's affirmations, third one, I got this from Taya practice, meditation followed by appreciation. So meditate and then do three things that you appreciate and really feel the appreciation. Fourth is my daily walks, and that may end up being 5th depending on the time of year. This time of year, it's best to do it in the afternoon, so that may be 5th or 6th. And then segment intending throughout the day. I forget what David calls that. He calls it something different. But basically, you set your intention for the next couple hours. What do you want to have happen? What kind of accomplishment do you want? What results are you looking for? And then finally, being mindful throughout the day of where my barometric pressure is.
That's a good thing.
Where's my vibration? Where am I feeling right now? So if I can do all 6 of those every day for a while, ooh.
I just offer a suggestion if you're having a hard time meditating. Appreciation is sometimes easier, meditation is sometimes easier if it's followed by appreciation.
Which is what I have on my list.
Oh, I thought you said appreciation after meditation, but maybe I misheard. Sorry. Sometimes I auditorily get
I think you just said the same
confused.
thing.
No, I mean like before or after. Like, oh, okay, let me see this again. I thought I heard you say meditation followed by.
I did. So meditation first, appreciation second.
Right. And I was gonna suggest appreciation first, and then
well,
meditation.
that's more the Taya practice. The Taya practice actually, the 3-step method. There is the low vibe activity, appreciation, meditation,
which is your walking, right?
Yeah,
which is your walking, right?
The reason I like doing it in the order I talk about is because meditation brings you up to the neutral. Appreciation is a high vibration.
Right. Yeah. Super.
So I want to rise to my neutral and then go for the high vibration.
I get it.
Which is different from, I mean, they're both legitimate, I think, but.
Right. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And everything, it's so cool to have these tools. And sometimes it's like, if you like a wooden spoon, right? We have a wooden spoon, we can stir something with the wooden spoon. But if you give the wooden spoon to a child, they're going to use it like a drum. Or I can take the wooden spoon outside and use it as a digging tool. Yeah. Or is that too weird? What I'm trying to say is I mean, it doesn't really matter how we use the tools if they work. We could take those tools and however we use them and however they work for us is really the ultimate goal, right?
Very true.
By the way, I got to do a couple of or 3 hellos to Jeffrey and Luke and Kevin, all checking in the live stream. So hi guys.
Hey guys.
Hi guys.
Jeffrey was also talking about deep rest as one of his things, and I totally get that. Yeah. And he says the weather is beautiful in Portland, so apparently both coasts are experiencing beautiful weather today.
Nice.
And then Kevin says he loves Neville Goddard, and we actually haven't done a lot of talking about Neville in episodes lately. Cindy and I haven't done any of his books lately, but we're with you on that.
Love Neville. Love Neville.
Yes.
I think I agree with Cindy too, with what she chooses as her favorite Nevilism. The idea that you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because it's just, oh, that just summarizes so beautifully the power of the feeling within the imagination. When you combine imagination with feeling, there is nothing more powerful in existence anywhere. So
Absolutely.
now Kevin jumps in with "I am." Sure, yeah. Well, that's where his whole thing starts, no doubt about it. But anyway, thanks for joining us. We appreciate that.
Yes.
So, okay, I shared my practices. What do you guys do for your practices? Especially, I'm going to go with Bridge because you said you got to get back on your track. So, what's your track?
Well, mine are a lot similar to yours. I have to do my walk every day outside, and I make sure, some of it will be me thinking of things in my head that I just need to sort out or whatever. And the other half is me literally just being grateful for, like you said, the sky, the trees, me walking, my lungs breathing, my legs working. The water I just had, the coffee and breakfast I'm going to go home to, and being intentional in being grateful for and appreciative for everything. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How much time do you spend on each one of those appreciations? Do you fly through them or do you spend time on each one?
On my walk?
Well, you just listed a bunch of things that you appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're doing those appreciations, the things that you appreciate, because I imagine that's part of your practice is appreciating all this stuff. How much time do you spend on that? Do you do it fairly quickly for each one, or do you spend?
Yeah.
Do you dwell on each one, or?
No, I do it pretty quick.
Pretty quick.
I do it pretty quick. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and throughout the day I'll keep listing things that I keep. More things that I am grateful for that I just had or did. That hot shower. You know what I mean? So like the list gets longer. So it's like quick because it can't take too long on all that because it'll just keep going on and on and on. But it does help me throughout the day to keep being appreciative, especially if I do feel my vibe dropping at all,
Okay.
Yeah.
The only reason I asked that when Kevin mentioned Neville Goddard, I thought to myself, well, assume the feeling. And for him, building the feeling up is the most important part. And that takes a little extra tension. So I was curious to know how much you were building up the feeling.
Yeah. Well, I do the affirmations like you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what was I going to say? Oh, and podcasts always help me. And then, like I said, I was listening to Jim Carrey's inspirational, speech or whatever. And I listen to comedians on YouTube sometimes if I need to. It all depends, like, what I really need in that moment, because it's different all the time. Sometimes I just need to dance, it's really different all the time. But my walk is, that is every day, unless it's like pouring rain out, I'm going. So, yeah.
That's one of the things I'm really glad I'm getting back to, because there was a time there during the gardening season I wasn't getting any walks in some weeks, or maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and I felt it. Oh God, I feel it. And to get back to it, doing it every day just feels like a release and a relief more than anything else.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact the weather's been gorgeous. But yeah.
How's the weather been, Walt?
Oh, gorgeous. Absolutely.
It really does help. It makes like the biggest difference, I think. I walk out and I'm like, oh.
No, I know, because when it's 115 and you don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
Oh, me and Walt don't experience that.
It's really, yeah.
Phoenix
I
is
get
a different lifestyle, a very different lifestyle, no doubt about it.
I love it hot, but 115, that's pretty hot.
Yeah, it's pretty nice here now. So it's like 81 today.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's just
you're coming into the really nice part of the year for being in Phoenix.
This is it. This is snowbird season. This is snowbird season.
Do you get a lot of snowbirds?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like last year was COVID, so that's we throw that year out as far as like how things usually are. But I think our population, I don't know, I should look it up before I start throwing out percentages. It's too easy to do. But it really, like we have some suburbs that like really the majority of the residents come and go, so.
Kevin says it's 81 where he is too. Where are you located, Kevin?
Oh, wow.
Type that into the chat. I'm kind of curious to know where you are. Probably another warm climb.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maricopa.
Oh. Hey, Kevin is about 45 minutes away from me.
There you go.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm in North Phoenix, Kevin. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, you guys were talking about your practices, and honestly, I feel like right before I graduated, I woke up and I'm like, I felt like Taya was sort of somebody threw a blanket on it for me. Like all of a sudden it was just, where is it? Why aren't I, everything that I was immersing myself with for those months was just, and I feel like I basically, after I graduated, I woke up one day and it said, I heard, okay, training wheels off. That's it. Get to work. And it was no longer like, okay, now I'm going to sit and do my, my work. And so I'm really making myself, okay, stay in bed, sit here, feel the covers. Let's appreciate the covers. Let's appreciate this. Let's do this, because I really want to set the intention for a better day. And I know that by what I do before I even get out of bed gets me on that road. And if I just barrel out and barrel into wherever I'm, shower, barrel, don't even think about it. There's no intention. I'm just going from one thing to another. And in the days, you can go down a lot faster, more reactive to other people's negative moods. And next thing you know it, I might have a little spiral until I realize, ooh, I gave my power away. So I really try to make my, but the training wheels, they're off. And it's the work now.
Well, I want to address that in a second. I need to mention in the chat, Luke's saying he's in Columbus, 63 degrees there. So yeah, about the similar weather to what we're experiencing here. And Jeffrey grew up in Phoenix, and his parents are in Sun City, and his brother's in Surprise, Arizona. So,
oh my gosh, see, yeah. Arizona's the place to be.
Apparently, except that he moved north, but other than that.
Yeah, but we're running out of water, people. No,
well, that's why he moved north. He went I believe he's in this, if I remember right, he's in the Seattle area or Portland. I can't remember. He's somewhere up in the Northwest where there's lots of rain, so not an issue up there.
Yeah, that's true. That's or at least there was a lot of rain. So I try sometimes when I'm kind of behind on my practice and what I should be doing. That's when I do my going to visit my senior citizen home, or I go out and I do my garden, or you know what I mean? Like right now I'm cleaning a room. I've got my sister-in-law's coming to stay with us from Europe for a couple of months. So I've never even met her after 7 years. So that's really awesome. So I try to sort of, okay, I know that doing X, Y, and Z is going to make me feel better. And then I can go from there, or going to bring me up enough for me to put me in a position so I can start feeling my decisions out. And feeling my decisions are really, really important. And you were talking about appreciation, Walt, about thinking. When I start really appreciating, I feel it. I feel that I let that appreciation go through my body, and it's not here, it's here. It's here. So, oh gosh, it feels so good right now. I appreciate my bed. It's really nice. I appreciate, I'm going to go and sit vigil to a person who's going to pass away. And so that to me is just an act of love. And I just love. And the appreciation it just goes up and up and up. And so I feel it. And sometimes when you have to write something down, I can't cross that barrier between the feeling and the writing.
Yeah.
It loses, it loses connection. So writing sometimes for me is difficult when I'm in the throes of feeling. So if any of you writers can give me any hints on how to get over that, let me know, please. Thank you.
Well, there are a couple of things there that I think that I wanted to address. But before we do that, I want to go to something else as sort of a precursor to it. Bridget will remember this from last Tuesday's boot camp meeting, that David, toward the end, brought up how in the mastery group, they did a stream session. And in the stream session, the stream made an interesting point that, in David's words, they are still unpacking, trying to understand it. Although from my perspective, it was so crystal clear, obvious, but I'm going to be curious to see what you guys think of it. Bridge, you already heard this, you'll remember this, but the stream was saying that appreciation is actually a higher vibration than love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of freaking some people out, apparently, but to me it seems obvious. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. After he explained it, even, for the little he explained it for it, I was like, okay, yeah, I see that. Because you're not in, when you're appreciating it, you have nothing to do with it. When you love something or someone, you do still have something to do do with it, like type of thing. I can't explain it anywhere near like he can. But
Yeah, love has
I got it.
love has the vibration or the feeling of love has more baggage with it than appreciation.
Kind of thing, yeah.
In a way, for me, because love can be like, oh, I just love that dress, or ooh, that's a beautiful color. I love purple. I mean, what does love? Love is almost like a hi, how you doing? Have a good day, or it's really beautiful outside. It's kind of subjective in a way, but when you can like appreciate something for what it is, no matter what it is to you, it doesn't matter. But I can see you're a nice person, but maybe you're not nice for me. I can still appreciate others, and I can appreciate the situations. And is that kind of in the realm of what you're of where you're going, Walt?
I think that there are different people experiencing it in different ways. David was experiencing it and describing it the way that made sense to him. Bridget just described it the way to me. The way it makes sense to me is, for me, any of these emotions have a vibration level. Like love has a vibration of X, whatever X is, but it's a very high vibration. And appreciation is not really the same thing as other emotions, because it changes its vibration level. To appreciate something is to increase its value in your own eyes.
True that. True that.
So
true that.
True appreciation is continuously going up. It's continuously vibrating at a higher and higher rate. So eventually, even if it's starting lower than love, eventually it's going to go higher than love, and it's going to keep going up and up and up and up and up. The only thing that stops us is when we just stop the appreciating.
Did you see that? Pardon me. Did you see that Jeffrey said, "Is it a matter of attachment?"
Yeah, that was another point to bring in. So I'm glad you brought that. Yeah.
And Kevin says love can hurt. See, because I think the idea of love is so it's almost subjective, right? I mean,
it's like relative
in some way.
Yeah.
And I mean, our moms love us, but they might beat us. So what does that tell us what the word love? Do you see? So it's just a word, but I try to go for the feeling. So for me, appreciation, I can appreciate it and love it, because, if I'm high enough, if I'm happy enough, I can.
I agree that it's very subjective. And to use one of the examples you mentioned there, I honestly don't believe that when a parent is beating up on a kid that they're expressing love.
I'm with you, but we love that parent, and look what the parent. I mean, just say, and for that example, and look what the parent is doing. So the parent is showing us that love can hurt, right? Isn't that kind of what they're showing the child? And that
I think that's a little misleading, because
it could be. Yeah.
The reason I say, there are a lot of things that people say, not just parents, that they say to try to justify what it is that they're feeling and doing, as if it were higher vibration than it is. It's a very common phenomenon.
Okay.
People often do it in a wide range of things. What's that one phrase that people use? I don't mean to be disrespectful, but, and then they say something disrespectful.
Right, exactly.
They think of it as a softener, and it is a softener, but it's also a bit of a lie, because I'm about to be disrespectful. Put up with it, but they don't want to say that.
Yeah, not to be mean, but
yeah, right, exactly.
But I'm gonna be mean.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not to be rude, but
that's true. I mean, I suppose we're just unpacking this word, right, called love, because.
There are going to be a lot of different variations. I mean, what was it that Jeffrey said before? I love and appreciate the seasons. Well, I'm going to suggest that that's a completely different vibration from the love being felt either by a parent or a child in a physical discipline situation. It's not even the same vibration.
Well, aren't we just limited by our words anyway, at the end of the day? I mean, isn't that kind of what this is? It's just, it's like a word fest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What did Alan Watts said? You can't get wet by the word water or something.
You can't wet. You
can't get wet by the word water. And I was like, dude, that's so awesome, because I'm so bad with my words. And I think it was Alan Watts that said that.
Plus
I'm writing that down.
The English language makes it even more difficult, because we have different meanings for the same words.
Yeah, right.
It's the most complex of all the Romance languages. It's just not even fair sometimes. All the different idioms and so forth. He says, "I appreciate this conversation." Oh,
yeah,
cool.
right.
I love that.
That's good.
I appreciate that comment. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. This is good.
But that again, that's why I think appreciation is a little bit different category, because I think all the other vibrations, all the other emotions, when we think about them, we think about them as being at a certain vibrational level. We don't think about them as changing a whole lot. Well, I guess apparently from what we're talking about, some people think of love as being a changing vibration. I don't think of it that way, but apparently some do. So maybe that's not even a clear-cut rule that I'm trying to outline there. But for me, appreciation is the one that really changes, and it changes in only one direction, upward. I don't see any way to make appreciation go down. Because even if you're appreciating something that's lower vibe, you're still raising your vibration about it. So how is it, you can't go down with it. It's not possible.
Yeah.
It would be depreciation if you went the other direction.
This is such a great conversation. I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling very rejuvenated by this.
Me too.
Just by this conversation.
That's why I do it every day. I love doing this. It is a big vibe lifter. I probably should have listed that on my list of things that I do every day, but I just do it every day anyway, so I don't even feel like it needs to be on.
Yeah, you're used to it.
Yeah, it's just part of the day
but
now.
Acknowledge it though, because
I do.
Yeah, it is important, isn't it?
Oof.
I mean, it's super important. Just because you do it every day doesn't make it any less. Or
at the end of every single show, it's always, wow, that was great. Oh, that felt so good, and it's every time. I can't remember the last time that we finished a show and turned off the camera and said, oh, that was so-so. It just doesn't come up. It never comes out that way. So yeah, that's one of the beauties of it, when you have that daily experience. And that daily experience leads you to want to appreciate without even having to think about it. I don't have to think about it each day. I mean, you guys have been doing it for a while now. When we're done with the show, do you have to think about it? Really?
Well, I appreciate it, like, during the day, like, okay, it's coming up or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna love that hour, even if like my day started off a little like or like so or what. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm gonna get that hour, and I always have a good time during that hour. So yeah, I appreciate it before it even comes. You know. Sure, yeah.
It's funny how that works, because the more we focus on it, the more we focus on it.
Yeah, and Jeanine, do you do the same thing? Because like, I mean, we just both wrote in as listeners, so like, I just also feel like super like blessed with it as well, just to be on it. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the show has done a lot for me. I mean, excuse me, the and being on it is even a different vibe.
Yeah.
As well, but it's interesting because I at first I didn't vibe with every co-host or with every day, but I would just pick it up here and there, and I noticed that my vibe was, well, I wouldn't call it a vibe then, but I noticed that I was just happier and happier by listening to. Am I on the right?
Oh,
did I miss something? Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, but no, I just noticed that my vibe was rising just by listening to your show. And the next thing you know, I'm listening to it every day. Oh, I try to get it live.
You get little nuggets and stuff of everything. And
try to watch it live and try to listen live. And so I just hope we help other people as well. I hope it's not, it can't just be us, right?
Well, it's coming through.
Hey, even if it is, there's three of us, so we're helping each other, right?
It's not, right. It's more.
Well, look at the live stream. We got comments there reinforcing it. Jeffrey's saying the show has done a lot for so many.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Kevin's saying, wow, it's been a while. Put LOA to the side for a minute and started to forget to appreciate. Thank you, guys. And,
awesome.
there's the appreciation you guys are talking about. I want to point out that we're trying to expand the meaning of LOA. LOA stands for Law of Attraction, but I've kind of adopted the new one, Living Our Abundance, because that's really what we're talking about here, living our abundance, regardless of whether Law of Attraction itself is part of the conversation. Living the abundance is living where we want to be. And it raises a question for me in my mind. It's a question that doesn't last very long, because I instantly answer it the same way every single time. But it's a question that I kind of wonder why it is other people don't ask it. And that is, what's the point of life if not to feel joy?
I agree.
I mean, yes, we do come here to experience the polarity. Yes, we
Mhm.
do come here to experience the whole range of life. But what's the
Yeah.
point of staying here if you're not going to feel joy? Is it
I've
really
always felt that.
is it really so important to be miserable all the time, or
But
have
for
to,
some, but at the same time, in some way, I understand where I understand that, but there are people who do. I mean, we all have different paths, right? And
Oh,
some
no
people,
doubt.
their lives aren't going to be filled with joy. There's going to be but I get where you're coming from, and I couldn't imagine my life, my existence in this corporal body, this physical body, as without having joy. I couldn't imagine that. But there are other people, and I have met them. I had
Oh,
met them
sure.
at 93. I've met them at 97. I've met them at 83 who really can't look back on their lives with joy, with eyes that are that appreciate. They're just not in that space. And
Absolutely. I agree with that totally. I'm not saying that people should want to, or that they end up experiencing it in their
mhm,
lives. I'm saying if people were aware of the idea long enough, and I don't think they are. I think that's the
mhm,
point I'm making. Most really aren't aware of it.
mhm.
But if they took the time to be aware of it, is there anyone who would say, I don't want to be here to experience joy?
Well, of course. Yeah. And I totally get that. Have you guys seen this show Made? Have you seen that yet?
No.
No.
I've
Okay.
seen it on Netflix, I think. I haven't seen it yet, though.
I'm not going to give anything away here, but there's a young lady going through a lot of contrast, a lot of issues.
Hmm.
And there was, I think I'm about, 5 or 6 shows. It's a very limited series of 5 or 6 shows in. And there was one part where they showed her just being in the moment and experience. She found joy in just one little moment.
Yes.
And you can see her just viscerally touching the grass and the water, and just how much joy that was. So I mean, even if even I think even in the hardest circumstances, the hardest situations, all of us will find joy from time to time
I think
when
so
we're
too.
in when we're experiencing, when we're in that moment, in the very moment. And we can find, and even I don't know, I just, that show just, that just made me realize that it was that even if our lives aren't filled with joy, there are going to be moments of joy. There are
Yeah.
going to be moments of reflection, or moments of appreciation, or moments of love. And and that's kind of true for all of us, because we really can't live in joy all the time. I mean, I'll be
No,
living
but
in
there's always that
Munchkin
silver
land.
lining.
Yeah. Like I'll be like on the yellow brick road, like everything's jolly, everything's jolly.
Yeah, right.
While
While the rest of the world is saying, follow the yellow brick road.
Walt and Cindy about 2 years ago. Oh, well, first time. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, Kevin. I followed. I didn't see the whole chain of
Oh,
taxi.
he's been
Changed his
following
life
us
2
this
years.
long. Okay.
2 years ago. That's, yeah. Actually, it was you and Cindy too, because you were doing the Neville Goddard, right?
Yeah, that's right. We
So,
did a
yeah.
whole bunch of them
Me
during
too.
that period.
Me too, Kevin. Yeah, the Neville Goddard was really, really sucked me in.
Yeah, I did love. Yeah, those episodes are great.
Yeah, they are.
I think it sucked all of us in. It sucked Cindy and I in. I can
Mhm.
tell you that. We were just absorbed in every single page as we're talking about it.
Mhm.
What
It
I
was
would
pretty
love
wild.
to, what I'd love to explore, and what I think you've kind of explored, Walt, a little bit with the law of attraction and living our abundance, is
Mhm.
how words, how we use them will make us sort of see things completely different, even if we're
Mhm.
talking about the same thing. So we might get across to more people if we talk about living our abundance as opposed to law of attraction, because maybe not everybody believes that. I mean, my engineer husband, he just won't, forget that law. There is no such thing. But living our abundance, well, I can get on that. So sometimes, and I know that's not necessarily, well, maybe that's not necessarily was your intent, Walt, to take the law of attraction out of it? Or do you think law of attraction has become too mainstream? Or did you want to try to appeal to more people by the law or living our abundance?
I wasn't trying to
Is
get away from it. I was trying to
okay?
expand beyond it
Right. Okay.
because it's a narrower subject. I wanted to
Yeah,
make the subject wider than that
I get it.
because really the whole reason for talking about the law of attraction is how we're going to apply it in our lives, how we're going to understand it, how it's going to affect the way that we make our decisions and choose how we're going to and what we're going to pay attention to and why we're going to pay attention to it and so on and so forth. So in that context, it's a very valuable concept, but it's all about the living of it. So I just don't want to get hung up on the LOA part, and I want to spend more time on the living, because that's really where the most interesting conversation is, I think.
Yeah, after you said it that day, I was like, oh my God, why is that not one of my affirmations? So now I am abundant is one of my affirmations, one of my favorite ones now.
It's like Jeffrey said, reframing and editing are two of my biggest tools, are big tools for me. And but I think it's so cool that you know, like, because when I listened to the Neville Goddard, he came out in a time when no one was talking about this, when it wasn't anywhere in our periphery. And I thought, this dude can say this stuff back in the 50s and the 60s or the 40s, or, you know, I forget what time period Neville Goddard was in. But I mean, he was daring. He did this. He talked about stuff that no one had a concept about back then, right? I mean, you know, talk about taking a chance. And so I don't know, there was something very inspirational about that for me.
I just wish we knew more about Abdullah, the guy from the Middle East who supposedly taught Neville all this stuff, taught him how to understand Bible teachings and so forth from this perspective, because I've never seen anything about him other than him being mentioned as Neville's teacher. I have not seen a single thing, and I've looked for it. That would be a really interesting person to know more about. So if anybody has any information of any kind about him, let us know, because I really would like to know. Yeah, very interesting stuff. But I agree with Jeffrey for sure. Reframing and editing are big tools too, in a big way. Because when you can learn to do that, I mean, Jeanine, you mentioned a few moments ago how it could be work. You kind of have to push at it when you're trying to change it. I don't think you're really pushing at it. What you're really doing is kind of pushing yourself to do it.
Right,
not really the same thing.
Well, it's wanting to feel better, right? It's wanting to experience a different day or a different kind of day. It's knowing that when I feel better, or when I feel emotionally better, I do better. I'm happier. I influence people more, right?
Yeah.
And that's no one wants to be a crabby old crab around a crabby old crab. They want happiness and people to bring them up, and so that's always my goal, is to be the best person I can be around other people. Emotionally speaking. I'm not always going to be perfect, but I mean, just I need to be on my best game, because I have to be aware of, like I said earlier, going in between the cracks. And when we're a little higher in touch with who we are, we can see those cracks of getting into someone, talking to someone, connecting with somebody, you know, and how to move forward with that. And when we're kind of grumpy, grouchy, we're not paying attention to how we're coming across, let alone how someone else is doing. So
isn't it funny though, how we become more perceptive of what you're calling those cracks. We become aware of them. I mean, I certainly have, and I can say, 10 years ago, I didn't even know they existed. And now all of a sudden I'm really aware of them.
That's right.
That's just really something as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I can sympathize with your husband, because I mean, I wasn't an engineer, but I was a programmer. That's pretty left-brained. And when you're in that spot, when you're in that space, this stuff sounds like nonsense. And it does. When you're in that place, it really does sound like nonsense.
But saying living our attraction to someone who LOA, law of attraction, would sound, it wouldn't sound as much nonsense. Do you see what I mean? So the words are interesting, because it's not like you're trying to hide. It's just that you're trying to expand it. And I think that is a matter of expanding. It's a form of expanding, is to make it more easily, I don't know.
And the fact that I think you said he is liking that phrase. Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah, if I can say, oh, we're talking about living our abundance. Oh, what's that about? But if I say, hey, we're talking about law of attraction, it's like, I'm sorry. What are we going to have for dinner? You want to go out? What?
And you know what throws people off about that? It's the word law.
That's right, because it's right. It's
for
not
the
right
left
up there
brain
with
thinker,
gravity,
Well, I
right? It's
could
not
see
gravity. It's not gravity.
which
It's
is
not
an
right
odd
there
thing,
with-
because if you could get that person, and I know because I was that person, if you can get that person to actually focus in on what makes something a law, then you can actually get there with them. But they won't let you go that far, because it's a really strange thing. In the back of a left brain person's mind, a law is something that is irrefutable. And what's really odd about that is none of the things other than law of attraction so far that I've ever encountered or ever heard about that is immutable. Even the law of gravity is now
Yeah.
immutable, which is really an odd thing, you know. And add in the fact that many left brain people, I think I was one of these for a while, consider laws to be proven. Now, I say that's an odd thing because actually in science, there's no such thing as proof. But that doesn't stop the left brain person from thinking, oh no, that's a proven fact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting place to be in, and it's an interesting place to grow away from. It's quite the journey, I have to say. But the fact that your husband is appreciating the idea of living our abundance, that tells me he's going to get there. It may take him a while, but he's going to get there.
Yeah.
He may never actively accept the phrase law of attraction,
Right.
but he's going to come close.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
That's all right. And the reason I say that I think he can actually get there is everybody goes through what in the Taya circle we call DTS, going down the spiral, going into the lower vibrations. And it can get to the point in your life where you get stuck there, where you just have a hard time climbing out, and it just seems like your entire life. That's when you become open to the idea of the law of attraction. When you're a left brainer, you have to go through that before it finally you finally say, okay, I don't know how to get out of the thing I'm dealing with right now, so I'll consider anything right now. Because you have to break the old mindset.
He definitely really will have no problem actually letting you know, hey honey, I think you're a little DTS today.
I know you
want to
said
go?
that.
Yeah. Do you want to go meditate? I think you need to meditate. Do you want to meditate? And at first he was just kind of silly about it. He was just kind of poking fun a little bit. But now he's serious. Have you meditated recently? I think you need to meditate. And
but the question that we're really addressing here is not so much what you're feeling; it's what he's feeling.
Right.
If he's feeling good all the time, well, then good for him. But there's a piece of me that says, "Really? Are you sure?" Because I know what it was like when I was there, and you can convince yourself of all kinds of stuff. The human mind is incredibly powerful.
Well, my husband is interesting because if you look at his life, I mean, he was born in a kind of poor in another country, and realized that if he stayed in that country, he wouldn't succeed, and so he really, I mean, his whole life looks like it was like on a water slide, just so he was living his abundance, but he wouldn't call it that. So but he's like really almost the walking epitome of a person who truly believes in law of attraction without actually believing in it. I mean, that's the way he lives. That's the way he lives. So he's not really like that, the depressed, because I think that there's so many different ways to live. There's just so many different ways of being. And I mean, people look at him and think, oh, he must have been given everything. He must have had everything. I mean, look, he got into this country, he's got into that country, he did this, and he lives his abundance, but he just doesn't label it. He doesn't have, it's not an identity. It's not an entity. It's just who he is. That's who he is. He's always that one that's trusted himself. He's always trusted, but he's not going to call it the higher self. He's not going to trust. I trust, the law of attraction. He just trusts himself. Right. Yeah. He trusts himself and he trusts his mind.
Right. Yeah.
He trusts his, I think
which is big. You definitely want to trust your own mind. That's a fabulous thing.
Right. But the mind is not the higher self. And so the mind, if you lose your mind, then you have no trust. So, but we haven't gone there yet. I haven't brought that up with him because Yeah, with an engineer, it's like you can't. That's their powerhouse, But
Jeffrey made an interesting comment, and it's another way kind of looking at the same thing. He says, I appreciate having people in my life to remind me that even when I'm DTS, I'm still pretty damn good and happy.
okay, yeah,
I love
that's
that.
it.
Oh yeah.
That's
It's
it.
a good way to describe it.
And people would say that about me too, like, "Oh, I didn't know you were upset. You look, because it's just I can feel it in here, but I don't always. I'm not, always showing it out here.
Yeah.
So,
I think the real trick with all of this stuff, for me anyway, I shouldn't say this for everybody. For me, the real trick was being consistent with how I was feeling and what I was expressing. Because it's very easy to get myself out of balance, out of alignment by telling everybody or telling myself that I'm feeling good when I'm not feeling good. Right. Not that there's anything wrong with fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it can work very nicely. I'm not against it. But when you find yourself having to fake it till you make it, it's a sign to you. It's a signal. Like you're out of alignment right now. Pay attention to that.
I was like that too, Walt. I was, oh no, I'm fine. I'm happy. Everything's good. Yeah, I'm happy, and maybe not that cheerfully, but are you doing okay? Yes. Jeanine, are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Everything's good. And it's just tersely. Like, no, yes. Yeah, because you really people can pick up on your energy. You can say you're happy. People know you're not happy, or you can say that you're thankful or whatever. And it's obvious that you're not. It's like,
but sometimes you don't have to say anything and people know.
Right. But I think that's a whole can of worms. That's called people pleasing. That's part of the whole people pleasing. And we don't want to go down there. But I'm just not that person anymore. If you say, well, if someone says, well, how you doing? And, I'll tell them, I'm okay. I'm doing all right. I might go in a little bit too much, and then they stop asking me how I feel, which is perfectly fine. I'm going, oh, my foot hurts today. My tooth hurts. I don't know. I'm just, but no, I'm fine. I don't, I'm different. And it's different. That fake, I can't do that fake thing anymore.
Well, you're in a better place.
Yeah. Yes. That's
huge.
True to myself. True to myself.
It's funny too, as we're thinking about this. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this. There was a television show in the US in the 1970s called Hee Haw. Were you guys aware of that one?
No. They
had this wonderful song in there. And to me, it epitomizes feeling good when you're feeling bad. It's this high-paced bluegrass type tune. And the lyrics that they sing are doom, despair, and agony on me, deep, dark depression, excessive misery. If it weren't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Gloom, despair, and agony on me. And they're singing it really happy and joyfully. It's so ridiculous. But you know what? It's a great idea. Because if you're feeling that miserable, sing it that way and you won't feel miserable anymore. You'll feel better.
That's true, because if you're really angry, that would really piss you off.
Yeah.
Hearing a happy song sung, that'd be like, shut up. Turn that off. Oh gosh. Well,
there's a good reason why it is that the blues are much more popular than Hee Haw was. It expresses where people wanted to be, or where they felt like they should be, or what they were living in most of the time, or whatever. What did Jeffrey say here? I appreciate having people in my life. Oh, that's the one we just read. Yeah.
Well, and then he says important to find what starts the DTS. And
that's Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's there. Often it's just we live in a very polarizing, vibrationally changing world, and sometimes being DTS is not something that we've done, or not something that's necessarily caused. It's just it's life. It's just life. I mean, sometimes we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or it could be horoscopes. It could be whatever. I mean, there's polarity. We that's right, Walt. Right, Bridge. We live in a world of polarity.
We certainly do.
That's that's why we came here. So
Kevin's raising an interesting point here. It was a point that I made over and over again early on in the show, and I'm actually beginning to shift my view on it a little bit. I still think it's true, but I've softened my view a little bit because he says it's important to find what starts the DTS. I think it's valuable to look for what starts the DTS. But by the same token, I don't really want to set the standard that says if I don't find what's set me down the spiral, I'm in trouble. I want to treat it more like an adventure and not mandatory. Oh, you've got to find it or else your life is going to end. So it's not so much for me anymore. It's not that it's important to find. It's important to notice that I'm down the spiral. And if I can find the cause of it, hey, that's going to make it easier to climb out.
Yeah.
But even when I don't know what the cause is, especially with the tire tools we have now, I can still climb out. I don't have to necessarily know what caused it.
Right, because it's not always a deep, dark, transgressor from way in our past. Sometimes it's just we have a little headache.
In fact, that was one of the modules. I don't know, have you gotten to this one, Bridge? One of the modules is recognition that there are some transgressors we can never identify what they are.
Yeah. That was him.
Which is an interesting point.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I did that module, I recognized that because that had been true for me for quite some time. There was this thing, I didn't know what it was, and it just kept popping up periodically, and I would feel it in my gut. And even after going through the early part of Taya boot camp, I still didn't know what it was. But the funny thing was, just the act of going through the boot camp, it started to dissipate, and it has very much dissipated. I was just taking like an internal temperature right now. I feel like this little tiny twinge in there. That's a bit. Just a little tiny bit. And it used to be something that would be dominant in my feeling. I'd try to pretend it wasn't there. I would try to, minimize it and so forth, but I don't have to minimize it anymore. It's just minimal, which is a big improvement.
I think sometimes it just works. It works itself out. And sometimes you're in the right place, right? And it just.
I attribute it to all the work that I've done.
Right, you got the tools. You got the tools, and it happens. But sometimes for me, I know that just some of those transgressors, and Jeffrey said that it's called root work, going and finding out the causes of the DTS, and it's also called shadow work too.
Shadow work, yep.
There's so many words for it, but I mean sometimes it just sort of naturally works itself. For me, it just sort of naturally works itself out, and it doesn't become any duster, But that obviously isn't a root, because it wouldn't be that easy probably to work out.
And if there is a root, usually you can identify what it is eventually.
That's what I was going to say. Sometimes mine's like that, but I can figure out what. So mine will be either or. Sometimes I do think it's just polarity. Other times I do know it's like some vibrational dust I got going on for something.
Thanks, Bridge. Yeah, thanks. And I think sometimes it's really good to maybe explore the differences between the two at the moment. Like, do I just have a toothache, or is it because, Joe said something bad to me, my cousin Joe or something, and why did that affect me so much? So let's go drill down and see why that's affecting me, which is another tool I like to use that we picked up. I'm not sure. Well, maybe you weren't there in one of the Taya boot camp meetings, but it was, he was doing a drill down, and the drill down was what really, really helps me to find out what might be a root cause of one of my DTS moments. But sometimes, see, I'm very, very, I don't use this term a lot, but there is some necessity for it. But when you're empathetic, when I'm an empath, and I grew up just feeling all of these vibrations just go through me, and feeling other people's vibrations, I forgot who I was, because I could just pick up on everything.
Sure.
And so just getting back into me and getting into that vibrational work has really helped. So however you get down to your roots, or down to what causes the DTS, or just accept it for a momentary issue, a toothache, or, whatever. I mean, we are people, things are going to happen sometimes, just polarity.
That's
So,
true.
Just whatever it is.
And sometimes all you have to do is just do a show of LOA Today.
Yeah.
There you go.
So thank you, ladies, very much. Thank you, live streamers. Thank you, podcast listeners
Thanks,
everywhere.
guys.
Thank you all.
We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.